Hi, I'm John McGuire, and I have with me CZ, our engineering manager for Global Search. And we're going to cover some of the important things that we have coming into GitLab 14.9. So the very first thing that I'm going to cover is something that we had started in 14.8, and it's carrying over into 14.9. It's the removing commits from our main index that we have in search. So initially we had search set up so that everything was in one huge index, and we found there's a lot of performance tweaks and a lot more flexibility that we get if we actually break out the individual scopes into their own indices. And we have started this process earlier in 2021, and it's carried into the point now where we're now working through the details on moving commits out. This work will be, we expect to complete in 14.9. We have just 3 more issues left in the process to get it done. We expect that this will help a little bit on the performance side when you're doing code searches. And it already has a pretty fast commit search, but if there were issues in the future with scaling, those would actually be less likely now. And the next thing we're going to really double down and focus on in 14.9 has to do with some compatibility pieces that have come up. So AWS had forked Elasticsearch back in Elasticsearch um, version 7.10, and they created their own version, which then got renamed into OpenSearch. OpenSearch is currently not compatible with GitLab installations, and we've isolated why that is. It will require us to deprecate some code that will in support for Elasticsearch 6.8. That ends up being a planned deprecation when we saw the release of Elasticsearch 8, which coincidentally just got released last week from the recording of this. So it actually just got released, and so we now would proceed to deprecate Elasticsearch support for 6.8 regardless. But we needed to do this to support OpenSearch. So the great news here is that if you use AWS and you are looking to use OpenSearch, you will be able to use that in GitLab 15. You can still use AWS version of Elasticsearch using the AWS services. You just have to use the Elasticsearch versions, which go up to version 7.10. This is a little bit confusing because in order to get to that section of AWS, you actually have to choose the service of OpenSearch. And it's only on the version page where you'll see the drop down to choose what version of OpenSearch you can install or you can use. And that's when you'll see the option for Elasticsearch 7.10. And that has worked for us for a long time, so we don't anticipate any compatibility problems. My understanding is that version did receive critical patches that were necessary, and it's still maintained through AWS. I don't have the documentation that states that, but that's my understanding. And then in GitLab 15, we'll be able to support OpenSearch. So we're really looking forward to that. We have a lot of requests to that. We definitely have had a lot of users that use AWS as their deployment stack, and this is definitely going to help them perform more efficiently. As well as I think we've heard there's even some possibilities that the infrastructure needed to run OpenSearch is more refined and actually may be more efficient too. But I have not tested that myself. Um, the next thing that we're going into is what I had talked about before, which is that Elasticsearch 8 is now out. So this had we knew this was coming. It wasn't shared on when it was coming. It was released last Thursday, and we do look forward to progressing down a path that allows us to support it. At this point, we are in the introduction phases of doing testing to understand if we have any compatibility issues with Elasticsearch 8. I will say that there are a lot of breaking changes that came out with Elasticsearch 8. So the anticipation is that we will find things that we'll need to address before we'll be able to support it. And at this point, that's what we're actually going through. In total, there were 144 breaking changes that were listed for Elasticsearch 8, which is a generational change in the product, normally we would see maybe 20, and we were impacted by very few of those. With this particular change and a lot of the stuff that has come out now with Elasticsearch 8, I do expect we'll have some changes we're going to need to make. So at this point, it's unclear when we'll have this ready, but we are working on this in 14.9 so that we can get a clear cut picture to how we can get the ability to support Elasticsearch 8. So that is our focus for global search going into 14.9. Do you see anything else?
No, John, I think you covered all. I'm looking forward to another exciting milestone.
Yeah, well, it's certainly appreciated all the work you put into this, and as well as the engineering team. I do hope that in the future releases that we have coming up in 14.10, that we'll be able to share some of the details that we're getting into now on what we're going to be changing and improving on the front end design. That will be the next. That will be the next kickoff video that we do in a few weeks. All right, thank you.